Welcome to Flex with Purpose, the podcast that explores what it means to move toward our highest potential, not for personal gain or applause, but to strengthen others and make the world a better place. I'm your host, Schalee Sanchez. I am thrilled that you made the choice to join us today. I know that you will be super inspired by our guest.
Okay.
Every episode is a conversation with someone who lives boldly, leads authentically, and lets humility guide their impact. Today, we have Dr. Ryan with us, who has been a pediatric dentist for almost 3 decades and has had a huge impact in the community that he serves, the families that he serves. Also, you'll get to hear a little bit about his personal life as a husband and father to 4 children who are all grown and now leaving the house. But I am so thankful that Dr. Ryan is with us today and that he's willing to share with us some of the things that he has learned on his journey, share some nuggets with us. Also going to just give him a little shout out because in 2025, he was awarded the Best Pediatric Dentist. That is a selection that is made by other dentists, by his own peers. And so he really stands out in his industry. He stands out just as a human being. I get to work out with him on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and his genuine heart, his love for others is so authentic. So thank you, Dr. Ryan, for being with us today.
So glad you had me come join you. It was a very nice intro. I'm honored to be part of this Flex with a Purpose. I've always been impressed with how you handle yourself from not only your very incredible, intense workout ability, but just you as a person. It's truly an honor to be here with you. And I'm glad to help out any way I can.
Well, I really am so grateful. I am excited about the conversation that we're going to have. And a lot of our listeners are tuning in because they want to learn to live a life that is guided by humility. And so one of the things that I encourage others to do is to really share their strengths, share the ways that they have been able to contribute to the world, because that is inspiring to others. And it's not a brag, it's not a look at me, but I would love for you to have the opportunity to share some of the meaningful accomplishments that you have had up to this point, whether that's professionally or personally, and give us a little bit of insight into that.
Okay, yeah. I came from a family. I had an older sister and brother, so I was kind of third in the pecking order, which was fine. And I had, I was pushed a little bit, which is nice. My parents they did not demand perfection for me, nor did I think I was ever a perfect person, but they always wanted me to do my best and to be proud of what I did. And if it was short of where I wanted to be, that's okay. Just keep working at it. And if you keep striving for something that you really want, have a passion for, you'll succeed. You'll get there. You just gotta go through the ups and downs of it. So being the youngest, I was kind of always trying to fight for a little bit of that, maybe acknowledgement from my parents. My sister and brother were quite smart individuals. They did really well in school. So there's a lot of pressure on me from that. And I had to work harder. And I think I learned early on that I wasn't quite maybe as intellectually as gifted. So I had to put the time in. And so I've always consider myself a little bit of a fighter where I had to be just a little bit more work. And I'm okay with that. Told my kids when I had them, I said, it's okay if you're not the smartest person in the room, and it's okay if you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but work hard. And I've always been a person who I pride in that I wanted to work hard to accomplish my goals. So working hard from schooling standpoint to get into dental school was a challenge, and it's a good challenge. And then from there, getting into the residency that you wanted to was also a challenge, and I like that push. But really, it comes down to, for me, I'm most proud of my accomplishments of really being here and doing the right thing. I always will say the analogy I use is I sleep well at night because I want to do the right thing, and I always do the right thing, it turns out to be the wrong thing, okay with it, but I'm in my mind, I am doing the right thing every time. I want to make sure that my families that I treat know, my patients know that I'm on their best. I'm on their behalf every time. I want to make sure that. So I think my biggest goal is, and my biggest part of what I think is important for me is being true to myself and being a true, honest person at all costs. And that sometimes means I made a mistake. That's okay. And I have to admit that and move on and be okay with mistakes. And I tell my kids, if you don't make mistakes, you're probably not trying hard enough. But I think the goals and, whether I'm at the D Magazine Pediatric Dentist of the Year or if I win awards, I won some of those. To me, it's about my relationships with my patients and obviously relationships with my family is super important.
Right. You just said enough that I could just focus on all of those nuggets right there, and it would be enough to fill the rest of this time. But I'm going to let our listeners just go back and listen again and go back and listen again as many times as they need to really capture the essence of the richness that you just shared in the influence that your parents had in your life and the struggle that you had to get to where you are, not negating the awards that you've won, but recognizing that relationships are the most valuable part of your life. So I'm just going to summarize it with that, but let our listeners take away what they want to. So it's really interesting to me that it wasn't this easy, smooth, yeah, I'm going to go into dentistry because it's just something that comes naturally to me. So, what really pushed you towards dentistry? What was it that made you decide to study dentistry?
That's a great question. In school, I was always kind of leaning towards the math and science side. My brain seemed to make that little more sense. Not that I didn't mind history and English and those classes, but I found that I was a little stronger in the math and science side. My sister and brother were both older, and they were in school for engineering, and I just kind of figured I would end up doing something like that. And so in high school, you have this, the whole world's ahead of you, and you're like, there's so many things I can do, but what is it I want to do? And so I showed up one day when I was, I think, a junior, spring semester of my junior year, and they had in one of our classes, they had this test on the table, and it was an aptitude test. The aptitude test was, I think, about 100 questions, and it was kind of the end of the day, and some people wanted just to circle, color in B's and C's and A's and get it over with. And I kind of took it to heart, and I said, okay, let's just see what this says. And so I filled out the aptitude test and didn't think much of it until about 2 weeks later. And 2 weeks later, they gave us results, and it said, according to how you filled out this test, here are the two areas of fields that we think you should go into. And I'm just kind of reading along, and it said carpentry or dentistry. And it was funny because in my mind was math and science, but I love working with my hands. I love building things and fixing things, and I've always done that since I was a kid. And so I never even imagined carpentry as being something that I would do. But to this day, I love doing carpentry. I love building things, and it's just kind of a passion I like to do. And so that's kind of what got me on the line of doing dentistry. Was this aptitude test says, hey, you might be a good dentist with what you filled out on this test. And I look back at all my dental experiences, and I had a lot. I had a lot of cavities as a kid. My mom was really diligent. We had 3-minute egg timers. We brushed. I mean, we were religious, but unfortunately, genetically, my teeth weren't super strong. And so I had a lot of cavities, but I always had great experiences. I had great dentists. And these people they're good at what they did, and they were caring and passionate. And I never had any anxiety, even though I had a lot of problems. And so I'm thinking after this test, well, maybe this is a field I could help people. I could do something. I like to fix things, and things like teeth can be fixed. And then I like to help people. And so I think it worked so well together that's what kind of got me on the road to it. And so from then on, I'm like, I should really think about this dentistry. No dentist in my family. It was kind of a weird, if I wonder if I was sick the day of the aptitude test or I circled in all B's, where would I be? And so I think being authentic and being true to yourself and doing those little steps all the time will always keep guiding you in the right direction. And sometimes you don't know what direction that is, but if you're honest with yourself, you're going to find that path and it's going to take you there. And that test got me on that path for sure.
That is such a powerful truth. And Dr. Ryan, I appreciate you bringing that into this conversation about being our authentic self is going to enable us to serve people in the best way possible. Even at this stage in life, for really any moment that we're going through, that, like you said, is what allows us to go to bed at night and sleep peacefully, knowing that we
Yes.
have been authentic, knowing that we've been true to who we are, and that we've served people from that place rather than trying to impress people or trying to be, someone that everyone else is telling us that we need to be.
Our society today is pushing people, I think, into a direction that sometimes is way off of the normal path for them, and so yeah, I think you're exactly right.
So, as you're talking about that, do any moments come up for you where you might have felt that pressure, either from colleagues or maybe even people in the community or from another outside source, where you felt the pressure of be someone you weren't and then choosing to stay grounded in who you are?
Yeah, I think that uh, that that happens quite a bit, and it happens. I'm not sure out of necessity or out of what drives people. Everybody is a little bit different in what drives them, and unfortunately, in our society, fame and fortune drive people into a direction that is can be a little bit scary. And when money is involved, people will do some really crazy things, and they're okay with it. And I'm not okay with it. So I've always been true to myself. Where like for instance, in my practice, when I see a new patient or an old patient or whatever patient I see, I treat them as exactly how I would want to treat my own kid. It's, for example, a patient comes to me and they say, Dr. X, Y, or Z diagnosed 7 cavities and they want to do surgery or they want to do X, Y, or Z. And I say, well, hold on a second. Let's not say what they said. Let me see what I see, and then I'll tell you what I see. Then we can compare notes. I don't want you to think that their notes are going to dictate what I do, because I would never follow somebody else's plan or goals because I don't know what's driving them. I don't know what their
Right.
motivation is, and sometimes, unfortunately, their motivation is not the best interest of the patient. And so I think it's really easy when you get into a professional setting. You can be driven by something that is stronger than your own being, and you can't let that push and change who you are. If I came to work every day and decided I need to produce more dentistry, I need to do more work. Well, I can go out there and tell them, oh, you have all these problems, and they'll probably believe me. And I would never want to misguide people. I would never want to feel like I would never sleep at night if I did that. And I think in our world, there's a lot of things that happen like that, whether it's dentistry or you name it. I think people do things that are sometimes pushing them out of the boundaries of what is good.
The encouragement that you've brought for us to remember why we're doing what we're doing and to think of it in terms of, is this the way that I would want to treat the person who's closest to me? Is this the way that
Yeah,
I would want to have an experience with someone who I dearly love? And the
true.
value that you give to your patients that come in and wanting them to receive the very best care possible. I think that that is something that stands out. It's a quality that you have, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to come and share, because we all need to be reminded of that. that ultimately is the goal, is to serve people well, to care for people genuinely,
Mm,
to make sure that when we're making decisions in each of these moments, what is our why? What is motivating us? What is going to be the biggest factor or the highest priority in the decision that we make for
yeah,
that particular situation? So I really appreciate you sharing all of that. I want to move on though into something else that shaped who you are today and guided your journey where you ended up. I noticed in your bio that I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, after your undergrad, then you worked for a year as a assistant. Is that correct?
it's true.
Okay, so during that year as an assistant, what were some of the things that you learned during that time that ended up impacting your future in the industry?
That's a great question. I got into dental assisting because I had an opportunity to go to dental school right out of college. The school I really wanted to be at was located in Dallas here, and at the time I was an out-of-state student. Even though I was going to Texas A&M, I was an out-of-state student. Came from outside Milwaukee, and I was kind of toying with the idea of maybe going back out of state, back to Milwaukee or a couple different places, and I was accepted. But I really, really wanted to go to Baylor here in Dallas, and I decided to take a year off. And it was a hard decision because you kind of want to. You feel like you're driven to finish and go. And I started this. I don't
Mhm.
want to. I don't want to take a year off. I don't want to fall off the wagon. But I luckily found a connection through just a classmate of mine happened to be at a A&M baseball game, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, "Well, I think I'm taking a year off and I'm going to work." He goes, "You call my dentist in Dallas, and maybe he'll give you a job." I said, "Great, I'll start there." And so I called. I'll never forget that I drove up from College Station to Dallas. This gentleman, his name was Dr. Tom Hedrick, and Tom was super busy. He had a huge practice, and literally, I came up. I think I graduated on a Saturday. On a Monday morning, he said, "Come up and chat with me." So I drove up, and actually, I think that I flipped that around. I think I drove up and talked to him before I graduated. I think I talked to him on a Tuesday, and I was a graduate on a Saturday. Drove up, talked to him for 5 minutes, and he said, "Well, won't you come and observe and follow me around and see if you like it?" I said, "Okay." So I drove back, and my girlfriend at the time, was now my wife, she said, "Well, do you have a job?" I said, Not really, but I think I might have a job." And so um, literally, I showed up the day after, the weekend after I graduated. I went and showed up and followed him around, and it was a pediatric office, and it was awesome. It was great. It was so much fun. The kids were fun, challenging at times, and easy at times. But I remember being tired following this older gentleman around, and I was, a 21-year old, and I was like, my feet hurt because he was so busy. But I think working in that environment as a dental assistant and kind of seeing all the things that go in the office, but really seeing the interactions he had with these families and these kids, it was moving. He had a great personality, but he also was true to himself and very busy practice, but he did the right things. And I was always impressed with how he handled himself and how the patients loved him. And I was totally impressed. I'm like, I could see myself doing something like this. This was great. I didn't have any idea what in dentistry I wanted to do. But after doing that for a year, I thought, I'm going to keep my options open while I'm in school and see everything. But I found myself just loving going to the pediatric clinic and seeing the kids. It's so much fun.
So that was when it was maybe more of a focus for you to
Yes,
lean towards pediatric dentistry before
absolutely.
you'd been open to adult or just any age. And then during that time was really when you thought, okay, working with kids is what was really appealing to you.
100%, and very rewarding. It's great to fix things and to help people and see them smile. It's great, but I think even more than that, I mean, seeing a nervous child or a child who's had a bad experience have a good experience and have faith and trust in their dentist, it's the most it's the best feeling in the world. I know that's coming from a dentist who we're a little strange people, but it's a neat experience to see that sometimes as fast as one visit, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 visits, but to see that go from a anxious child into a patient who loves going to the dentist is way more rewarding than any D magazine, awards or, that stuff is all great. But way better is seeing those patients become just loving going to the dentist is awesome. So awesome.
It's so cool because you can just hear without even having to see you in your voice how much this means to you. The opportunities that you have to truly make a lasting impact in the lives of the children that you have in your clinic. And I think it
Yeah.
ties back really well to what you started out with, how you, as a young person, had some really positive experiences yourself with dentists
Yes.
who took good care of you, helped you feel calm, and made it a positive experience for you. And now you are the one that is getting to really mark these children with a
Yes.
positive dentist experience for the rest of their life. And
Yes.
they may look back
100%.
on that in, different ways, not necessarily because all of them are gonna grow up to be dentists, but I'm sure that it translates into other ways that they then move into a career, just the care and the ways that they have had interaction from you. So I want you to help us understand what that process has been like for you. From the beginning, was it easy for you to have a child who was anxious and maybe even crying and just having such a hard time to be able to have the skill to calm them down and reassure them? Or has that been something that you have intentionally had to seek out getting input and help to be able to develop? How has that process been for you?
Yes, I was fortunate when I worked in Tom Hedrick's dental office as an assistant. Like I said, it's a very busy place. They saw a lot of people, and actually, there was 2 different dentists that worked out of a pretty small clinic, and it was a well-run machine. They knew what they're doing, and they'd done it for a long time, whether I was there or not. And they had a lot of good dental assistants that were trained for many years at what they did. And it's not only knowing what you're doing dentally, but really how do you handle patients? How do you handle different types of patients or different types of people? Anxious, nervous, afraid, happy, whatever it is, how do you handle them? And I learned quickly that if I'm going to do this well, I need to listen. I need to be a really good listener and learning how their techniques and how they're applying them and how they handle that patient, or they did this and it backfired, or whatever it might be. So I got to learn a lot of different behavior management techniques from not only the doctors who were great, they were wonderful at it, but really
Mhm.
the assistants and the hygienists they were spectacular. They were
Mhm.
amazing at handling these kids, so by the time the doctor came over, there's not a whole lot to do. We've already won this battle for you, and I have that in my practice too. I have some really good assistants and hygienists that do their job really well, and so that makes my life easier. However, I still have a lot of those little tricks of the trade that I learned many years ago that can help with certain ways of how you approach people and how you engage them, and eye contact, all those different things that can help make that experience just a little bit better, easier, and trust, and when to push and when not to push. So I think learning that early on gave me a good foothold. So by the time I was in dental school and seeing my own patients, whether they were adult patients who were quite nervous and afraid sometimes, to my
Mhm.
pediatric patients. I could handle a lot of those problems because I had a whole year of it, just a ton of it. It was a great experience for me. I got really lucky.
As you were talking reminded me, I just recently started reading a book. It's about reaching your highest potential as a leader. The title of it is Flip the Switch. The author is Bindu, and I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name because it's very long and complicated and I will mess it up. But I was just reading actually last night in this book about leadership, how important it is. And it was sharing a real life story of a leader who had accomplished some really fabulous things with his company because he decided to listen, and the value of being intentional about listening. And that's what you were
Yeah.
highlighting that helped you be able to develop these skills was your willingness not only to listen to the doctors that you learned from or the other dentists that you were learning from, but their assistants and the other people who were interacting with the patients, and then learning from them, having that humility to say, "You know what? They're doing really well at this, and
They're
it
better than
would
me.
benefit me to learn from them." Yeah.
Yes. You're right. I think it's easy to say, I'm the most educated, or you can say whatever you want. I'm the smartest person in the room. I know there's somebody in the room that knows more than you do. There's somebody in the room that you probably should be listening to. If you just sit back and listen before you speak, most times you sound a little smarter by being not the first person to speak, but maybe the last person to speak. But I think I learned early on that um, if I'm going to learn how to do dentistry, these people are awesome at it. Whether I'm going to dental school or not, these people are good. They do it. Learn it, and it was a great experience. It was neat, and I still to this day my assistants will do something. I'm like, ooh, that's good. Whatever that
Uh-huh.
interaction right there was good, and that's how you do it. And I can learn from that. And if I get to the point where I'm not going to learn anymore, then I probably need to hang it up.
Right. Yeah, because it's an ongoing journey. We don't ever stop
Mhm.
learning, right? So, talk to us a little bit about what has changed, the things that you've learned, not just in how to care for different patients that are experiencing all these different emotions and having all these different dynamics in their, you know, time that they're in your chair, but interacting with parents and
Mhm.
family. How has that been from the beginning of when you started back in 1998 to what
Yeah.
it is today? What have been some of the changes that you've seen in that regard?
I think I've definitely learned a lot. And I think for people to say, how did you learn? Well, I made mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes that I made that I even said, I did that wrong. No, it just didn't work like I wanted it to work. And I'm sorry, and I'm ready to fix it. And here's how we should go about fixing it. It wasn't, oh, all the blame is on the patient or whatever. But I think learn early on. I tried to be as open minded as possible, but at times I probably um, didn't listen enough to the parents to really find out what they really wanted. And
Mm.
quickly I realized I need to not tell them what needs to be done, but ask them what they would like done. And I can
Okay.
tell them what I would do, even though option B, C, and D are still available as well. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, supposedly, but I think early on I would say, this is what you have to do. And now I'm like, here's what I see. And what I see, this is how I would treat it. And
Mhm.
if you choose to treat it, fine. And if you choose to do something different, that's also fine. I just want to make sure you're aware, and informing information for people is good. I always tell, moms and dads, especially moms, if you give them enough information that you can share with them, they'll make the right decision. If you can inform them enough, the parents will make the right decision. And that's why I've come to the fact there I need to be more very informative and very honest about every different option and not scaring anybody in anything, but here are your options. But information is key. And I use the analogy
Mhm.
of a mechanic. I don't know how to fix my car very well. And if my car is not working and I take it to the mechanic, I have to trust him to tell me what it is. And he'll say, "Hey, Patrick, your engine's upside down." I'm like, "Well, how did that happen?" I don't know, but it's upside down. Well, let's fix it. Let's get it right side up. But I have to trust him, and that's one
Right.
thing that I learned is I can't misuse that trust, and it has to
Mhm.
be here's information, here's all of the kind of the options you have. What would you like to do? How do you want to solve the problem? So I learned over the years I need to be very informative and very open. And some people have different decisions, and that's fine. If they choose to do it different, that's okay. And that doesn't mean they're wrong. It could be the time that I chose this way. I was wrong again. I don't want to. I'm not going to force me down the path and say, "Oh, that was the one you wanted to go on." I'll say like, I don't want to do a filling on a tooth that's going to fall out in 6 months. They're like, "Oh, there's a tooth that fell out, and there's your little filling." I'm like, "Oh, sorry." I don't choose to do dentistry that way. I would never, if I wouldn't do a filling on my own daughter's tooth or son's tooth, I'm not going to do it on yours. But I think information and being informative is really important. I think I've changed a lot in that regards where I've learned to be that way.
This conversation just keeps getting better, Dr. Ryan. And there's several things in there talking about trust, talking about empowering the parents based
Yeah.
on valid information to make their own decision. And then you trust them to decide
Yeah.
instead of forcing them to make a decision that they're not comfortable with. So many good things in there. But one of the things that I want to at this time highlight for our listeners is you mentioned about you've learned from mistakes. And that truly is a posture of humility in allowing ourselves to acknowledge, I made a mistake this time, and then learn from it. In fact,
Yeah.
there's Jay Rogers' book, The Bet. He dedicates a whole chapter, chapter 6, to learning from our mistakes, that as leaders, we are going to make mistakes. And if we're not willing to acknowledge that and to say and apologize, you know what, I did not give full information, or I did not respond the best in that situation, or I could have done this better. If we're not willing to learn from our mistakes and acknowledge that we make mistakes, then we're really stifling our growth and our ability to reach our full potential to serve people well.
That's
So
true.
I really am so glad that you brought that into this conversation. I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit. You've already mentioned about how, as a pediatric dentist, you think about each patient as if they were your own child. But how else have being a husband and a father impacted your professional career?
Being a husband first and foremost, it's it's been great. I love having my wife there by my side. I love having her support. Without Kristen, helping me support our family through when I was in dental school, she's just been a rock. She's always been there and very supportive of my journey. And really, it's kind of our journey because she put a lot of time and effort in too. It was me doing a lot of work, but her supporting all that every turn, which is you have to have. I'm thankful for it every day. But then having kids of our own it's just the most incredible feeling. It's the joy you have with your kids as they grow up and for me as my kids are older now, the joy of them finding their own feet underneath them and having a path and they're happy going down their path. It's so rewarding and it definitely has shaped me into realizing the values and the importance of of family members being such an integral part of almost everything you do. And if you can not necessarily make them proud, but things that you're doing are always to help them, to lift them up is so important to me. I want to be a good role model for them. So when they
Mhm.
look at me, they can say, my dad, I'm proud of what he did for me and helped me to be where I am. They're their own people and they're going to make their own decisions. And I tell them, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's totally fine. And I made
Mhm.
mistakes, and I'm okay with it. And that some mistakes are gonna sting, and you're gonna have to fight through it, and there'll be rough times. But if you're not making some of those little mistakes, you're probably not reaching for that bar you need to reach for. If you can get to
Mhm.
where you're getting really easily, you're not. Don't think you're getting very far, unfortunately. So, but they shaped me so much in how I put myself in the parent's shoes and what I would do if I were them. I even tell them this is how I would approach it. But
Mhm.
all that being said, how much care people have for their family and how much love they have, I see it every day, and it's a great feeling to see these strong families and these ties with their kids and how much they care for them, and it just reinforces how lucky and fortunate I am to have my family and my kids.
I know that you're not obsessed much as this is a part of your life. It's not an
Yeah.
obsession for you to be in your clinic doing dentistry work all the time.
Yeah.
And you enjoy life with your family, with your wife, with your kids. You enjoy traveling, you enjoy sports, you enjoy other things. How do you balance that, or how do those other elements in your life fuel you as a dentist?
That's great. I'm not a workaholic. I love work. I like what I do. And people say, "Are you going to retire?" I said, "Yeah, someday," but I don't have any interest in doing that now. I really enjoy helping and fixing and doing the things I do in the office. But I also know it's just part of a whole self being, and it can't dominate my time, and my family can't. It has to be a mix.
Mhm.
And I also know that if I wasn't working, my wife would probably be drive her crazy. So I need something, but it is a balance of time, and it kind of goes back to why are you in the business, so to speak? Why are you? What do I do? Why do I do this? Is it because financially rewarding? And the answer is no. That's not really why I got into it at all.
Mhm.
It's nice to be able to support your family, but the financial side of this is just part of it. Stability is great,
Mhm.
but money does not bring happiness, and that's been proven
Right.
hundreds and hundreds of times before I said it. But I think for me, what brings happiness is finding joy in what you do, and helping people. That's joyful to me. And then being able to spend time with my family. That's about as much joy as I can get. I just can't get any higher than that. So do I work hard to play hard, so to speak? But I work because I like what I do, and I definitely like to spend time with my family, and balancing that is important. I think you have to have a balance there, and you have to know when you're too heavy one side or the other. But I've been fortunate being able to have a little bit more freedom owning my own practice. Um, I can change my schedule if needed, if I have enough time in advance. If I'm smart enough and capable enough to look in the future and say 6 months from now, what do we do? What days do you want me to block off to do X, Y, or Z? I have the flexibility to do that, where some people can't do that. Now, if you call me and say, "Hey, next Tuesday, do you want to, go for a 26-mile run?" I would say, "Schalee, I love to go a 26-mile run, but I do have patients that day, and I can't. I don't. I would never last minute change my schedule just because I want to do something like that. I wouldn't put people out. I wouldn't want them to do that to me, and I wouldn't want to do to them. So I don't change my schedule late for something like that. But the 26-mile run might be a little too much for me anyway. But yeah, it's definitely a balance. I think I learned over time. Early on, I spent a lot of time at the office. I had a lot of patience, and I was trying to work through. But then, as my kids were getting older, I realized I'm missing time. I'm missing certain things, and I want to. So I actually cut my schedule to make it fit better, and I did
Okay.
that. You suffer monetarily, but I'm okay with that. It was fine
Yeah.
decision for me to do that. So I took some more time off in certain times where I could spend quality time with my kids.
Are there any last nuggets of wisdom that you could share for listeners who are wanting to live a life that is full of compassion for others, but also full of desiring excellence in their professional life and their personal life and wanting to really live their best version of themselves?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not the person that should be answering this. There's smarter people, a lot smarter people than me in this. But like I tell my kids, you have to be true to yourself first and foremost. You have to be, if you are wanting to achieve something, achieve it. And if it's hard, then still achieve it. The thing that people don't realize is that just because you come across a disappointment or a failure, if you want to call it that. I don't really call it a failure. You just didn't get to where you wanted to be, but I'm not done trying. You missed the shot, but the clock is still going. So I tell my kids to reach for more. And don't be afraid to reach
Mhm,
for more. Don't settle
mhm,
for something that's easy. If you got there and it's easy, you probably need to keep going a little farther. And it's not about being the best person out there. It's about being the best version of you. And nothing feels good or better. I'm sorry. Nothing feels better than when you accomplish a goal that you thought might be unachievable.
mhm.
And if you do that in life, I think you're going to be happy. I really do.
Yeah, I've got to say this because what you were just talking about that you share with your kids, and now the listeners are able to receive from you. I want to say that that very thing I personally benefited from. When I went and ran the Tulsa Marathon, my goal was to qualify for Boston. And you and
Yeah.
the other campers that I work out with were all cheering for me. Y'all made this big sign, and I went and ran it, and I came up short. I did not qualify when I went and ran that, and I specifically remember when I came back, you said the very thing that you were just sharing about, "You know what, Shalea? You reached for something that seemed unattainable to you, so keep going after it. Like, just because you didn't get it this time doesn't mean you won't get it next time." And then I got to go to Mesa, Arizona earlier this year and qualify for Boston and then celebrate with all of you that victory. And you were there to help me remember you don't just
Yeah.
try for what's easy for you. You try for something and you may not get it the first time, but don't give up on that first time or the second time. You keep working at it. And you have an opportunity to have that reaching a goal, being satisfied in it, but like you pointed out, it's not about being better than everyone else. It's about being the best version that you can be.
And you exemplify that. I've been around you for a long time, and you exemplify that when I'm with you all the time. You are just a very impressive person to be with. The way you hold yourself, the way you encourage other people, how positive you are. It truly is a joy to be with you. And many of the campers, people say, "Well, why do you do it?" And it's early in the morning. I said, I I'm okay with early in the morning. If I can be around people like that that help motivate and guide me, that's a no-brainer. I'll get up an hour earlier if you need me to. I wouldn't miss it. There's no way. I think it's what you've accomplished and what you've gone through, and see you working through that. That's pretty impressive stuff. Very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate your encouragement. I've really just learned a ton, but also it's been really enjoyable to get to have this conversation with you. I'm thrilled about what our listeners are taking away today. And so thank you very much.